Enoch saw visions no ordinary man had ever seen. He walked where angels stood and heard secrets hidden since the beginning of the world. He witnessed the fall of heavenly beings and the rise of kingdoms yet to come. What he wrote was not imagination, it was a warning to all generations. Long before the flood, before Moses, before kings and kingdoms, there was a man named Enoch. He walked with God when the world around him was turning dark, and one day God showed him something terrifying, a vision of the end. It was not a small warning, it was not a quiet message. It was a glimpse of the day when God himself would come down to judge the earth. Enoch saw the Holy One coming from heaven. He saw God descend upon Mount Sinai with thousands upon thousands of holy angels surrounding him. The sky burned with his presence. The ground shook under his feet. Every eye was filled with fear. The mountains trembled deeply, and the high hills broke apart like dry clay. Even the strongest parts of the earth could not stand when he appeared. In the vision, the holy ones gathered around God as he came in great power. And Enoch declared what this meant. God was coming to judge everyone. He would strike the wicked. He would destroy those who continued in evil. Every sinful act and every harsh word spoken against him would be brought into the light. Nothing would stay hidden. Enoch said that on that day the mountains would melt like wax in fire. The earth itself would split open. All the proud and wicked would shake with fear. The world that people thought was strong and unshakable would fall apart before the power of the Holy One. But this prophecy was not only about fear, it was also about hope. The righteous would not be destroyed. Those who stayed faithful would find peace. They would stand safe beneath him while judgment fell on evil. God would cleanse the earth and bring justice. This was the first message Enoch spoke, a warning to the world. The Holy Great One will come. He will not ignore evil forever. A day of judgment is set, and when it arrives, nothing wicked will survive before him. Enoch began to look at the world around him. After seeing the vision of judgment, he turned his eyes to the earth, the sky, and everything God had made. And what he saw was simple but powerful. Everything in creation followed its path. Everything moved the way it was told to move. Nothing stepped out of place. He looked at the sun rising in the morning and setting in the evening. It never failed. He looked at the moon and the stars shining in their seasons. They kept their times without delay. The winter snow covered the land when it was meant to. The summer heat came when it was commanded. The seasons changed one after another, just as God had ordered them from the beginning. Enoch saw the trees standing firm. Even in harsh winters, some ancient cedars stayed green year after year. Rivers flowed in their channels. The winds blew in their time. The rain fell when it was sent. Every creature on earth followed the law placed upon it. None argued. None resisted. None tried to change their path. But when Enoch looked at mankind, he saw something different. He saw rebellion. While the sun obeyed and the stars kept their order, humans chose their own way. While trees and rocks stayed in their place, people broke the commands given to them. Creation honored its maker, but man turned away. Enoch could not understand it. How could humans dare to rebel when even the mountains stand where they were placed? How could they ignore God's order when all of nature moves in perfect obedience? The earth itself was a witness against them. So Enoch gave a warning. If everything in creation keeps its place, how much more should mankind? Those who break God's order will not find peace. Just as the seasons follow their path, judgment will follow rebellion. The world around them was proof that God's law stands firm, and those who choose to fight against it will stand alone. As Enoch continued to receive understanding about the hidden things of heaven and earth, he was shown how a great change began among the angels. In those days, when people were many upon the earth and daughters were born to them, certain angels looked down from heaven and saw them. These angels were known as the Watchers. They had been given a role. They had a place. They were meant to observe and serve under the command of the Most High. There were 200 of them who made the same choice. They gathered together and came down upon Mount Hermon. That mountain became the place of their agreement. Their leader was called Semjaza, and he spoke openly to the others. He knew the weight of what they were considering. He said he feared that he alone would carry the blame if the plan failed. So he asked them all to swear together. And there on Mount Hermon, they made a solemn oath. They bound themselves with a curse upon themselves so that none would turn back from what they had decided. They agreed to choose wives from among the daughters of men. They agreed to join themselves to human women and live as men upon the earth. This was not a small step. It was a crossing of a boundary. The Watchers left their proper dwelling. They stepped away from the order that had been set for them. They took on the form of men and walked openly among humanity. To the people of the earth, they appeared as men, but they were not like other men. Mount Hermon was named for this oath because there they bound themselves together in their decision. United in their promise, they moved forward. What began as a desire in their hearts became action, and from that moment, the course of human history began to shift. The Watchers, who were meant to watch and guide, chose a different path, and their choice would bring knowledge, power, and change to the world of men, things that would spread far beyond that mountain where they first stood together. The Watchers took wives from among the daughters of men, just as they had sworn on Mount Hermon. They lived with them and raised families among the people of the earth. But what was born from these unions was not ordinary. Their children grew in strength and size far beyond any man. They became known as the Nephilim. These giants rose higher and higher as they grew. They were said to be 3,000 cubits tall, towering over cities and fields. When they walked, the ground seemed small beneath their feet. At first, people may have looked at them with wonder, but that wonder soon turned into fear. The giants consumed everything in their path. They used up the harvest of the fields until nothing was left. They took livestock and drained the land of its food. The people worked and planted, but it was never enough. Shortage spread across the earth because of them, and when there was no more food to satisfy them, the giants began to turn against the people themselves. They became reckless and uncontrolled. They no longer cared for order or peace. Villages were left empty. Families were scattered. The strong pushed aside the weak, and fear ruled the hearts of many. People hid from the giants, but there was little safety to be found. Even the animals were affected. The giants chased the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky. Nothing was left untouched. The natural order that Enoch once described, the sun, the seasons, the trees, stood in sharp contrast to the confusion spreading across the earth. Creation had its law, but mankind was now caught in disorder. Among the Watchers, one name became known more than the others: Azazel. He did not only walk among men, he began to teach them things they had never known before. At first, this knowledge may have seemed useful, even impressive. But it was knowledge that had not been given to humanity by God. Azazel showed men how to work with metal. He taught them how to make swords and knives. He showed them how to shape shields and breastplates for battle. He revealed how to dig into the earth and bring out ores hidden in the ground. With skill and fire, men learned to turn raw metal into weapons. What had once been simple tools now became instruments for harm. But Azazel did not stop there. He also taught about ornaments and decoration. He showed how to craft bracelets and jewels. He revealed the use of colored dyes and ways to beautify the body. In quiet places, women learned how to use cosmetics to change their appearance. What had once been natural became something altered and adorned. Other Watchers shared their own teachings. Semjaza taught enchantments and the cutting of roots for secret uses. Barakijal taught the signs of the stars. Others explained the movements of the sun and the paths of the moon. They revealed hidden knowledge about the heavens, things that were never meant to be uncovered in that way. As this knowledge spread, something began to shift in the hearts of people. Instead of honoring the Creator, they focused on what they had learned. Power, beauty, control, and hidden arts became their desire. The more they learned from the Watchers, the further they drifted from God. Idols were shaped from stone and metal. People began to bow before what their own hands had made. Sorcery and secret practices grew in hidden corners. Disorder spread. Desire ruled over wisdom. The earth, already wounded by the giants, now sank deeper into confusion and wrongdoing. This was the result of forbidden knowledge. It was not simply learning new skills, it was crossing a boundary that had been set. Under Azazel's teaching, humanity stepped into things it was not ready to carry, and as these secrets spread across the world, the distance between mankind and God grew wider than ever before. As the world grew darker, Enoch became aware of something deeper than what his eyes could see. A cry rising from the earth itself. The land that was once calm and fruitful was now covered with sorrow. Fields that once brought life now carried the marks of destruction. Rivers flowed as they always had, but it was as if they carried grief within them. The mountains stood tall, yet even they seemed to bear witness to what was happening below. Enoch understood that creation was not silent. The animals that once moved freely now lived in fear. The balance of the earth had been disturbed. Everywhere he looked, he sensed that the world itself was burdened. It was as though the ground was crying out. But the cry did not stop there. Enoch perceived that the souls of those who had lost their lives were also raising their voices. From beyond what human eyes could see, their plea rose upward. They were asking for justice. They were calling out for the wrongs done to them to be made right. Day after day, that cry stayed with Enoch. It was not faint. It did not fade away. It grew stronger, heavier, impossible to ignore. It echoed in his thoughts and rested upon his heart. He felt the weight of it as if it belonged to his own family, his own people. Enoch knew something important. A cry like that would not rise forever without being heard. The gates of heaven would not remain closed to such a sound. The Creator of all things sees the earth. He hears what happens upon it. So Enoch wrote that the voice of those who had fallen would reach heaven, their cry would stand before God, and when that moment came, the one who rules over heaven and earth would respond. The sorrow of creation would not be forgotten. The cry of the earth would not remain unanswered. The cry of the earth did not rise unnoticed. In heaven, 4 great archangels heard it clearly. They stood in the presence of the Most High, shining with strength and authority. Their names were Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. Each had a role, each carried power, and each understood what was happening below. Michael, strong and steadfast, saw the spread of disorder. Gabriel, mighty in action, looked upon the suffering of mankind. Raphael, who brings healing, felt the pain that covered the earth. Uriel, keeper of wisdom and light, saw the deeper cause behind it all. Together they looked down and saw that the world was no longer at peace. They spoke among themselves, saying that the turmoil was great and the earth was crying out. The world that had once been formed with care was now burdened. The voices rising from it were reaching heaven. So the 4 archangels went before the throne of the Most High. They did not remain silent. They brought the matter before him. Enoch, in the spirit, understood their plea. They asked that the fallen watchers be called to account. They asked that those who mourned on earth be remembered. The archangels declared the greatness of God. They said that nothing is hidden from him. Every act done on earth is seen. Every secret choice is known. They spoke the names of those who had led the rebellion, Azazel and Semjaza, and made clear that their actions had brought harm to the world. Enoch was filled with awe. The mighty beings of heaven cared about what was happening on earth. They were not distant. They were not unaware. They stood in the presence of God and spoke on behalf of creation. Their words rose like incense before the throne, and as their plea was heard, it became clear that the time for action was drawing near. Heaven had listened. The cry of the earth had reached its mark. and a turning point was close at hand. Then the Most High gave his command. The time for silence was over. The cries from the earth had been heard, and heaven responded. Enoch saw that nothing happens without the word of God. When he speaks, all creation listens. Michael rose first. In his hands were great chains prepared for this moment. He went to Semjaza and the other watchers who had followed him. Their time of freedom had come to an end. They were seized and restrained, set apart from the world of men. They would no longer walk openly upon the earth. Raphael was sent to Azazel. He led him away into a lonely desert place. There, among sharp stones and deep shadows, Azazel was shut away. Rocks were placed over him, and darkness surrounded him. He would remain there, separated and hidden, until the final day appointed by God. Gabriel was given another task. He went against the giants, the mighty ones who had filled the earth with chaos. He stirred them against one another. Strength turned against strength. Power rose against power. The giants fell by their own hands, and their rule came to an end. Even their fathers, the watchers, could only look on. The earth would no longer tremble beneath their steps. Enoch saw valleys filled with stones and silent markers. The proud words once spoken by the watchers faded away. Their plans had ended. Their influence was broken. What seemed unstoppable had been brought low by the command of the Most High. The angels declared that the spirits of those who had led mankind astray would no longer roam freely. Disorder was restrained. Darkness was confined. The world began to breathe again. As Enoch watched, he understood something deeply. No being, no matter how powerful, stands above the authority of God. Even those who rebel must answer when he calls. In the end, all creation responds to his voice, and the balance that had been broken was now being restored. After the watchers were restrained and the giants were brought down, the Most High spoke again. The earth had been filled with chaos for too long. The balance of creation had been broken. A cleansing would come, not by fire this time, but by water. The world itself would be washed clean. Enoch saw Uriel, the angel of light and fire, sent with a message. He went to the family line of Lamech, to a man named Noah. Noah was different from the rest. While many had turned away from God's ways, Noah walked in righteousness. His heart was steady. His steps were faithful. Uriel brought him a warning. He told Noah that a great flood was coming upon the earth. Waters would rise and cover the land. Everything outside the place of safety would be swept away. Noah was told to prepare, to hide himself, to build what God would show him. The message was clear and urgent. The sky itself seemed heavy. The air felt different. The world continued as it always had, but change was near. What had been spoken in heaven would now unfold on earth. Then the rain began. It did not fall lightly. It poured down without stopping. Day after day, night after night, the waters increased. For 40 days and 40 nights, the rain covered the earth. Rivers overflowed. Valleys filled. Hills disappeared beneath rising waves. The giants, once towering and feared, could not stand against the waters. Their strength meant nothing before the flood. Cities vanished. The proud works of men were carried away. Everything outside the place of safety was overtaken. But Noah and his family were secure. Inside the ark, they were protected. While the waters rose around them, they were carried above it. The ark moved upon the deep, guided by the hand of God. At last, the rain stopped. The waters slowly began to settle. When the flood had done its work, the earth was quiet. What had once been filled with chaos was now washed clean. Enoch saw that this was not the end of the story, but a new beginning. From the waters would rise a renewed world, a world ready for righteousness, a world given another chance to walk in the order set by its Creator. Before Enoch was taken from the earth, he was given one final responsibility. The watchers who had been restrained in darkness heard that Enoch still walked among men and had favor with God. Though they had once been mighty, now they were troubled. They could no longer move freely. They could no longer return to their former place. They sent a request to Enoch. They asked him to speak on their behalf. They hoped he might carry their words before the Most High. They believed that if anyone could speak for them, it would be Enoch, the one who walked closely with God. Enoch went to them. He listened as they spoke. Their voices were no longer proud. The confidence they once carried had faded. They asked him to write a petition for them, to ask that their situation be changed. Enoch agreed to bring their request, but he already understood something important. When God makes a decree, it stands firm. Still, he did what they asked. He wrote down their words and carried them in prayer before the Lord. Afterward, Enoch received the answer. He returned to the watchers and spoke to them plainly. His voice was steady, not harsh, but clear. He told them that the decision of the Most High would not be reversed. What had been declared would remain. They would stay in the place set for them until the final day appointed by God. Even the most faithful servant could not change the will of the Creator. Authority belongs to Him alone. No plea, no argument, no request could move what had already been established. Enoch carefully recorded everything that had taken place. He did not add hope where none had been given. He did not change the message. He wrote faithfully that the righteous would live in peace and walk in obedience, while those who chose rebellion would not continue in the renewed world. With this, Enoch's role as mediator came to an end. He had spoken truthfully. He had delivered the message without fear, and soon his own journey would take him beyond the earth he had warned for so long. After these things, Enoch was carried in visions to many hidden places of the earth. He was not walking by his own strength. He was shown these places so he could understand how wide and deep God's creation truly is. What he saw was beyond anything known to ordinary men. He was taken to a vast desert where the wind moved with fierce power. There he saw fire that did not spread like normal fire. It seemed to move with purpose, held in place as if commanded. The air shimmered with heat, yet nothing burned outside its boundary. It was a place prepared and set apart. In another region, Enoch saw rivers that flowed like streams of fire. They moved steadily, glowing in the darkness. He saw figures near them, spirits who had turned from their place, standing close but unable to escape. The fire did not move wildly. It stayed where it was ordered to stay. He also saw great pillars of hail standing like towers, untouched by the flames around them. Nearby were mounds of precious stones, crystals, and shining rocks that glowed in the light. The fire did not consume them. Everything remained within its appointed limit. Even in these strange regions there was order. Then Enoch was shown a deep valley surrounded by steep cliffs. It was dark and heavy with silence. There he saw some of the angels who had left their first place. They were restrained, separated from the world above. Their faces were downcast. They understood their situation and waited for the time set by God. Far from that valley, Enoch was taken to a place filled with bright light. There stood a tree unlike any he had seen before. Its beauty was beyond description. Its fragrance was sweet, and its branches stretched wide. This was the tree of life. Holy angels stood guard around it, protecting it until the right time. As Enoch moved from place to place, he understood something clearly. God's creation holds both great beauty and places set aside for reckoning. Nothing exists without purpose. Nothing is without order. Even in the darkest regions there was structure. Even in places of light, there was careful protection. Everything answered to the command of the Most High. Enoch paid close attention to every detail. He remembered the sound of rushing fire, the stillness of shining stones, and the expressions of those he saw. He knew he would one day speak of these things to the people of the earth. What he witnessed was not random. It was shown to him so that others would understand that the world is larger, deeper, and more ordered than they could ever imagine. As Enoch's journey continued, he was taken to a place filled with pure light. The air felt clean and calm. There was no fear there, no sorrow, no sound of trouble. In the center of that bright land stood something more beautiful than anything he had ever seen: the tree of life. Its leaves shone like clear crystal, smooth and bright. They did not fade or wither. Its fruit glowed with a soft, living light, as if it carried life within it. The tree stood tall and strong, untouched by decay. It was not like the trees of the earth. It was set apart. An angel stood beside Enoch and spoke gently to him. He told Enoch that this tree was being kept for a future time. After the day when all things are set right, the tree of life would be given to the righteous. Those who remained faithful would eat from its fruit, and whoever ate from it would receive life that does not end. When Enoch heard this, his heart was moved. He felt both joy and sorrow. Joy because such a promise existed. Sorrow because he knew how easily the hearts of men turn away from what is pure. Many chase power and pleasure, but few seek what is holy and lasting. Still, the tree stood firm. It waited patiently. Its roots reached deep into the foundations of perfect light. It seemed to carry healing within it, not only for people, but for the earth itself. It was a sign that the story of mankind would not end in ruin. The angel told Enoch to remember this and to carry the message back. There is an inheritance prepared for the righteous. There is something beyond what the eyes of men can see. The present world is not the final chapter. Enoch looked again and saw angels gathered near the tree. They held golden cups and drank clear water beneath its branches. Their voices rose in praise. They rejoiced in the life that flowed from that place. The tree stood as a symbol of endless renewal and peace. Even after rebellion, even after the flood, even after all that had gone wrong, God had prepared something beautiful for those who remain faithful. The tree of life stood as a promise that one day the world would be restored and life would continue in peace without end. Enoch was shown another vision. This time it was about the future, about a great turning that would come upon the earth. He saw kings sitting on high thrones. He saw rulers dressed in rich clothing. He saw strong men who believed their power would never fade. Many of them looked down on the faithful and treated them with pride and harshness. The righteous seemed small in comparison. They had no armies. They had no grand halls or heavy crowns. Some were pushed aside. Some were ignored. Some were spoken against. It appeared as if the proud would always remain above them. But then a voice rang out across the vision. It was clear and powerful. It declared that the proud would not remain where they stood. Those who lifted themselves high would be brought low. Thrones would not stand forever. Crowns would not stay upon every head. Enoch saw a great reversal begin to unfold. The seats of power began to shake. The places where injustice had ruled started to crumble. The ones who had trusted only in their own strength looked confused and unsteady. The earth itself seemed to breathe easier, as if it had been waiting for this moment. He heard that the words spoken by the proud would not be forgotten. The choices made in secret would not remain hidden. The high places of wrongdoing would be laid low. Nothing built on pride would last. But for the righteous, a different future was prepared. Enoch saw that their hands would not remain empty. They were promised an inheritance. Their days would not be shortened without purpose. They would stand in peace. The shame meant for them would not stay with them. Those who had stood firm, even when treated unfairly, would be lifted up. Mercy would rest upon the humble. Joy would replace sorrow. The faithful would see that their trust had not been wasted. Enoch wrote down this parable so that others would understand. The Holy Great One would bring peace to his chosen ones. He would set things right in full measure. Just as mountains tremble when God moves, so would the unjust lose their footing. This message was given so that the faithful would not lose heart. Even when the world seems unbalanced, a day of turning is coming. And when it arrives, the humble will stand secure while pride fades away. As the vision continued, Enoch was brought to its very center. There, in a place filled with light brighter than the sun, he saw a figure standing before the throne of heaven. This figure was unlike any angel he had seen. There was strength in him, yet also deep kindness. His face shone with calm authority. His eyes burned with truth, not with anger, but with clarity that saw all things. Enoch, moved with wonder, asked the angel beside him, "Who is this?" The angel answered gently, "This is the Son of Man. He walks in righteousness. He was chosen and set apart before the world was made." Enoch watched as this Son of Man stood near the head of days, the Eternal One. He was not distant or separate. He moved in closeness and honor. Around him were countless angels, serving and attending to him with reverence. Heaven itself seemed to recognize his place. The angel explained that the name of the Son of Man had been written before creation began. Before the mountains were formed, before the stars were set in the sky, his name was known. It was pure and unchanging, established by God from the beginning. Enoch saw that the Son of Man had been hidden for a time. He was kept in the presence of God, revealed only when the right moment would come. He carried wisdom and understanding given by the Most High. The secrets of God were entrusted to him. Then Enoch heard the angels speak in hushed voices. They said that one day the Son of Man would sit upon a throne of glory. He would stand before nations and kings. He would bring truth into the open. Nothing false would remain standing in his presence. Those who had chosen pride and injustice would be shaken when they saw him, but the righteous would draw near with joy. They would recognize him as the one who stands for what is right. As Enoch watched, a deep peace filled his heart. It would not be left without a defender. The Son of Man, chosen from the beginning, would one day be revealed to all, and when that day came, truth would shine brighter than ever before. Enoch was then carried into a vision of the highest heaven. He saw the throne room of the Lord of Spirits. Light surrounded the throne like living fire, yet it was steady and pure. Crowns of brightness circled around him. The air itself seemed alive with praise. Countless angels stood in order, watching in silence and honor. Beside the Lord of Spirits sat the Son of Man upon a throne of glory. His face shone brighter than the morning sun rising over the earth. There was calm strength in him. He did not grasp for power. He carried it naturally, as one appointed from the beginning. The armies of heaven stood around them, ranks upon ranks, shining and still. No voice spoke out of turn. No movement broke the order. All eyes were fixed upon the one who had been chosen. Then Enoch saw the Son of Man extend his hand. At that moment, the nations of the earth were brought before him. Kings and rulers who once believed they held lasting power now understood something greater. They stepped forward, not in pride, but in recognition. They saw that true authority did not belong to them. An angel declared in a clear voice, "He was chosen before the world began. He is appointed to be a light to the nations and hope to those who mourn." These words echoed through heaven. The kings of the earth bowed. Crowns that once symbolized their own rule now seemed small in comparison. They saw that all power flows from the Most High, and that the Son of Man had been entrusted with it. The elect one would lift up the humble. Those who had remained quiet and faithful would not be forgotten. At the same time, pride would not stand in his presence. The loud voices of arrogance would fade away. The Son of Man would be like a staff in the hand of the righteous, steady support so they would not stumble. He would guide them through dark days and uncertain times. His light would remain constant when all else seemed to shake. Enoch wrote this vision carefully. It was not only a picture of heaven's glory, it was a promise. In days of trouble, the faithful would find mercy. In moments of fear, They would find light. The elect one, chosen from the beginning, would stand as their strength forever. Thrones once thought unshakable began to tremble. Enoch saw a time drawing near when the rulers of the earth sensed that their power was fading. These were men who had commanded armies, built cities, and spoken as if their words were law. They had trusted in gold, in strength, and in their own wisdom. But now something greater stood before them. The light of the Son of Man grew brighter and brighter, surrounding them like a rising sun that cannot be dimmed. It filled every corner. There was no shadow left to hide in. One by one, the mighty rulers looked for a place to escape. They turned to their wealth, to their gods, to their titles, but none of it helped them. Enoch saw their riches lose value in a moment. What once seemed solid and lasting became like dry straw, carried away by heat. Crowns slipped from their heads. Their strong voices grew quiet. The confidence they once carried drained away like water sinking into the ground. He saw them face the truth of their own choices. They had ignored the Lord of Spirits. They had turned away from His Anointed One. They had trusted in themselves instead of honoring the One who gave them breath. Now they stood without excuse. On that day, no human hand could protect them. No alliance could shield them. No title could restore what was lost. The hidden thoughts of their hearts were brought into the open. What they had done in secret was no longer concealed. Enoch saw a great change come over the earth. Those who once celebrated wrongdoing lowered their heads. The pride that had filled palaces faded away. The rule of harsh leaders came to an end. And in their place, something new began to rise. The humble, who had waited patiently, were lifted up. The quiet and faithful found strength. Peace began to spread across the land, covering it like a cloak laid gently over the world. The earth would no longer serve those who ruled with pride. A new order would stand, built not on fear or force, but on righteousness and truth. The vision did not grow dim. Instead, it widened. Enoch found himself lifted beyond the earth once more, carried into places where the skies seemed deeper than any night he had known. There, mighty angels stood ready to guide him. They did not speak carelessly. What they showed him were hidden things, mysteries that few had ever seen. He was shown how the forces of creation move. He saw vast storehouses prepared for the winds. Some winds were gentle, sent to refresh the earth. Others were strong, held back until the moment they were commanded to blow. He saw chambers where thunder was kept and places where lightning waited like a servant ready to be sent. Nothing moved on its own. Everything waited for instruction from the Most High. Then the stars came into clear view. They were not scattered lights without purpose. Each one followed a path set long ago. Their courses were steady and measured. Enoch saw that even among the stars, there were those that had stepped out of their order. These were set apart, restrained in their own place, like the fallen watchers below. They stood as a sign that order is not optional in heaven. The angels explained that every planet, every cycle of light and darkness, every rising and setting is governed by a law that cannot be broken. The heavens move with precision. Seasons do not forget their time. The sun does not wander from its path. The moon does not choose its own course. Enoch was told clearly, nothing in heaven escapes the rule of the Almighty. From the smallest star to the greatest light, all answer to His command. This was the meaning within the parable. Just as the stars keep their appointed ways, so too will every creature one day stand before the One who formed them. As these truths unfolded, Enoch felt as though he were seated at a great banquet of understanding. The secrets of the universe were laid before him one by one. He saw that heaven itself stands as a witness against disorder. Its beauty is not random, its harmony is not fragile. It is held together by the will of God. What he had seen on earth, its struggles, its pride, its confusion, was only a small piece of a much larger design. Above it all, beyond it all, There was structure, wisdom, and glory beyond measure. Enoch came to understand that the earth is not alone in its story. The heavens declare the same truth again and again. All creation moves under the authority of the Most High. And one day, just as the stars remain in their courses, so will every living being recognize the one who set them there. Far beyond the places he had already seen, Enoch was carried to regions hidden from human sight. These were not lands of earth or sky as men know them. They were storehouses, prepared and sealed, kept under the authority of the Most High. He saw chambers filled with shining winds. They moved softly inside their boundaries, waiting for the moment they would be sent across the earth. Some were meant to bring change in the seasons. Others were held back for appointed times known only to God. Not a single breeze moved without purpose. In another place, Enoch saw great reserves of waters set apart. These were not rivers or seas of the world below. They were held in readiness, contained within vast spaces. He understood that even the waters answer to command. They do not overflow without instruction. They remain where they are placed until the time comes for them to act. Then he was shown something even more personal. He saw a chamber where records were kept, where the lives of men were written with care. Nothing was overlooked. Each path, each decision, each moment was known. It was not written in confusion, but in perfect order. The destiny of every person was seen clearly before the one who rules over all. Enoch also beheld the place where the light of days is kept. It shone steadily, never fading. Nearby were fountains that flowed with heavenly wisdom. The angels explained that this wisdom is given to those who truly seek it. It is not forced upon anyone, but it is available to those who thirst for understanding. As he continued, an angel showed him a gate of the sun. It was like a great golden doorway in the heavens. Enoch watched as the sun entered through it at dawn, rising exactly when it was meant to rise. He saw that even the daily light that warms the earth follows a path that has been set from the beginning. These sights left Enoch humbled. Any pride he carried from walking among men faded away. He knelt as the angel explained that every principle of life, the movement of the sun, the turning of seasons, the breath within a human body, is under divine care. Nothing is random, nothing is forgotten. Every treasure of heaven serves a purpose. Every storehouse supports the order of creation. The promises of God stand because these treasures stand. The times of renewal and the times of reckoning are both upheld by what Enoch saw. He understood then that the hidden things of heaven are not stories or legends. They are real and active, sustaining the world day by day. And above them all is the wisdom of the Most High, who holds every treasure in perfect balance. The vision reached its highest point. Enoch saw a vast assembly unlike anything before. The earth and the heavens seemed to open together. From every direction, multitudes appeared. Those who had long rested in the dust rose up. They were clothed in garments shining bright and clean, like pure white linen glowing in the light. These were the righteous. They gathered before the throne of the Lord of Spirits. Their faces were filled with joy, not fear. Their prayers, once whispered in quiet places, had been heard. Their faith, once questioned by others, was now openly honored. They stood together as one people, united in peace. Around them, angels moved in order. Books were brought forward. Records were opened. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was confused. Everything was clear and measured. Then Enoch saw another group standing apart. These were the ones who had chosen their own way and turned from what was right. Their confidence was gone. The boldness they once showed on earth had faded. Before them hovered a blazing presence like a sword of fire, bright and impossible to ignore. One by one, names were called from the book of life. Those whose names were found written there remained in the place of light. But for those whose names were not found, there was separation. They were led away to deep and shadowed places, far from the joy of the assembly. It was a place prepared long ago, set apart, and sealed. A strong voice echoed across the gathering. "Let the wicked speak no more. Let their proud words come to an end." The noise of rebellion ceased. The boasting that once filled the earth was silenced. The final judgment was complete. The righteous were given lasting joy. Light surrounded them. Peace rested upon them. The others were removed from the assembly, separated from the glory they had once ignored. The vision was steady and final. Nothing more needed to be added. The time of decision had reached its conclusion, and the order of the Most High stood firm over all. The light that filled the vision began to draw closer to Enoch himself. He had watched kings fall, the righteous rise, and the Son of Man seated in glory. But now the vision turned toward him. The brightness that surrounded the throne did not push him away. Instead, it surrounded him gently, lifting him beyond fear. The Son of Man came near. His presence was steady and full of peace. As Enoch stood before him, it felt as though heaven and earth faded into the background. The light grew stronger, yet it did not harm him. It felt as if he was being drawn into a deeper reality, closer than he had ever been. An angel spoke beside him, saying, "Enoch, your name is written among the holy. You shall walk with God, and you shall not taste death." These words were not loud, but they carried weight. They were firm and unchanging. Enoch felt himself lifted higher, brought into the presence of the Lord of Spirits. The glory of that place was beyond description. It was not only light, it was life itself. He was not overwhelmed with fear. Instead, he was filled with calm and wonder. He was shown a throne prepared for him. It was not a throne to rule over nations or command armies. It was a place of honor, a sign that he had been chosen as a messenger and witness in the heavenly realm. Angels stood around him and spoke words of praise for his faithfulness. They honored the path he had walked on earth. In that moment, Enoch saw that his journey had always been leading here. He would not remain bound to the dust like other men. He would be hidden in the presence of the Lord, kept among the holy ones. He was also shown that he would share in the glory of the Son of Man. Not equal to him, but close to him, he would stand as a witness to all that had been revealed. The visions he had seen were not only for his time, they would speak to generations yet to come. It was made clear that his role would continue beyond the earth. He would remain among the elect, preserved in the heavenly places. The mysteries he had written would carry his testimony forward. When Enoch came out of the vision, the world around him felt different. The ground beneath his feet, the sky above his head, all of it now seemed temporary compared to what he had seen. He knew that his time on earth was sacred, set apart for a purpose greater than himself. A new vision began, not of thrones or assemblies, but of the heavens themselves. Uriel came to Enoch and led him toward the far edge of the sky. They traveled to the east, where the light first appears each day. There Enoch saw something hidden from human eyes, a great gate set in the wall of heaven. It shone like polished gold and stood tall and strong. This was called the Way of the Sun. Enoch watched as the sun approached that eastern gate. At the appointed moment, the gate opened and the sun passed through, beginning its journey across the sky. It did not wander. It did not rush. It followed a clear and steady path, shining upon the earth exactly as it had been commanded. When the day reached its end, Enoch was shown another gate in the west. As evening came, the sun entered through that western portal and disappeared from sight. The gates were then closed for the night. Uriel explained that these gates are opened and shut according to a set order. Nothing happens by chance. This, Uriel said, is the order God has set for the lights of heaven. The sun serves its purpose faithfully. It rises at its time and sets at its time. It gives warmth and light to the earth, then withdraws when its work for the day is done. Enoch stood in awe. He saw that dawn and dusk are not accidents. They are part of a greater design. The walls of heaven hold everything in place. The gates do not open early or close late. They move according to the will of the Most High. As he watched the sun follow its course, Enoch saw a deeper meaning. Just as the sun has its appointed path, so does every person. There are seasons in life, times to rise, times to rest, times to act, and times to wait. All are known before they begin. The steady movement of the sun became a lesson written across the sky. Order rules the heavens, light answers to command, and nothing escapes the care of the one who set it in motion. After showing him the path of the sun, Uriel turned Enoch's attention to the moon. They stood beneath the vast sky, and Enoch watched as the moon changed before his eyes. At one moment it was thin and faint, like a silver thread. Then it grew brighter and rounder, until it shone full and strong. After that, it slowly began to fade again, shrinking night by night until it almost disappeared. Then the cycle began again. Uriel explained that the moon does not change without reason. Just like the sun, it has its own gates and hidden chambers. There are storehouses prepared for its light. From these places, its brightness is measured and released in exact amounts. It does not grow too quickly. It does not fade too slowly. Every phase follows a perfect design. Enoch was shown tablets held by angels. On them were written clear markings, lines and numbers that counted the days. They marked the new moon, the full moon, and every stage in between. Nothing was guessed. Nothing was left uncertain. Each month followed the one before it in steady order. Uriel told him that this was part of the divine calendar. The year was measured as 364 days. Weeks and months were set in place from the beginning. The heavenly lights move according to this pattern, keeping time exactly as commanded. This calendar was not only for counting days, it was the way God appointed times for holy gatherings and sacred seasons. The movement of the moon helped mark these days. It served as a witness in the sky, reminding the earth that time itself belongs to the Most High. The moon does not step outside its course, Uriel said. None of these things can be changed. Its path remains faithful. Its light increases and decreases with precision. It does not forget its duty. Enoch watched the moon continue its steady rhythm. He saw that even what seems to fade is not lost, but only moving through its season. The pattern always returns. The order always holds. As he took in these mysteries, he saw that the years of a person's life are also known and measured. Just as the moon keeps its course, so too are human days counted with care. The heavens move with exactness, and nothing within them is wasted or misplaced. Uriel lifted his hand and directed Enoch's eyes even higher. The sky above them was filled with countless lights. Constellations stretched across the heavens like patterns woven into dark cloth. They did not flicker without reason. They burned with steady brilliance. Uriel pointed toward the great groupings of stars. Orion standing strong in his place, the Pleiades gathered tightly together. Each was fixed on its course. Enoch watched closely and saw that the stars were not scattered at random. Every one of them moved along a path set long ago. They rose and set in appointed seasons. They appeared at certain times of the year and withdrew at others. Their order was exact, and none crossed into another's path. Uriel explained that laws had been written for the stars. These were not laws carved in stone, but commands established by the word of God. The stars obeyed without question. They did not choose their own direction. They did not wander freely. If any were to stray, Uriel said, a stronger force would draw it back. Enoch was reminded of the fallen angels he had once seen restrained. Just as those beings had been confined to their place, so too would any star that left its order be held firmly. Some rebellious stars had already been set apart, serving as a sign that even the lights of heaven must answer to authority. Enoch also saw great bodies of water stored in the heavens, held securely. They did not pour out without command. They remained contained, a clear sign that even the highest realms are governed with care. Some stars seemed to shift and move more quickly across the sky. Uriel explained that the winds of heaven carry them in their courses. But even these winds do not act alone. They move only when allowed. Their strength and direction are guided by the will of the Most High. As Enoch observed the stars blazing in perfect formation, he saw that everything above him was bound in order. Nothing collided, nothing drifted aimlessly. The heavens were not wild or chaotic. They were structured and steady. The same pattern he had seen in the seasons of the earth was written across the sky. The sun kept its gates. The moon kept its cycles. The stars kept their laws. Even the hosts of heaven served under these commands. The vastness of it all did not suggest freedom without limits. It revealed a universe held together by design. Every light in the sky testified to a rule greater than itself, shining faithfully in the place it had been given. The vision of the heavens did not end with the sun, the moon, or the stars alone. Enoch was shown how all of them worked together as one perfect system. He saw clearly the pattern of the 364-day year. It was steady, balanced, and complete. This calendar was not simply a way to count days. It was a sign of order that does not shift. Each season arrived at its appointed time. Each week followed the one before it without confusion. Nothing was missing. Nothing was added. The cycle held firm from beginning to end. Enoch was shown what would happen if time were allowed to wander. If days were misplaced or seasons drifted from their course, the harmony of creation would begin to break. Harvests would come at the wrong hour. Holy gatherings would fall out of place. The careful balance between light and darkness would weaken. But the design he was seeing did not allow for such disorder. He watched as angels carried scrolls filled with instructions. These scrolls marked the days with exact detail. They recorded the turning of weeks and the movement of months. When a messenger appeared to move out of step, correction was made immediately. Nothing was permitted to remain out of alignment. In his wisdom, an angel said, God has given mankind a clockwork of days. Time itself moved like a finely crafted instrument. Each part worked with the others. The sun entered its gates on schedule. The moon completed its phases on time. The stars marked their seasons without delay. Enoch realized that this calendar was part of a greater truth. It showed that God's plan does not drift or change without reason. Just as the days follow their order, so do his purposes. The passing of time is not empty or random. It carries meaning. To understand this calendar was to glimpse another layer of creation's design. It revealed that history itself unfolds according to a set pattern. Every generation moves within a framework established long before it was born. As the vision settled in his heart, Enoch saw that time is not a force that controls the world. It is a servant of the one who created it. The perfect calendar stood as proof that the Most High governs not only events, but the very rhythm in which they unfold. The visions began to grow quiet, and Uriel turned to Enoch with words that carried weight. "What you have seen is not for you alone," the angel said. "You must write it down. The generations to come will need this knowledge." The command was clear. The mysteries of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the perfect order of time were not meant to remain hidden in heaven. Enoch bowed his head in humility. He felt the seriousness of the task placed before him. Then he began to write. It was as though understanding flowed through him without struggle. He recorded the gait of the sun and how it rises and sets. He described the chambers of the moon and the steady rhythm of its cycles. He wrote carefully about the 364-day year, the weeks set in order and the seasons fixed in their places. He did not leave out the stars. He wrote of their paths and the laws that guide them. He noted how even those that once strayed were held in their proper place. He explained how the winds, the waters, and the lights of heaven all move according to command. As he wrote, Enoch felt the trust placed upon him. He was not a king. He did not lead armies, yet he had been chosen for something just as important, He was to be a witness, a scribe, a voice that would carry heaven's order into the world of men. He paused at times, looking up at the sky, remembering what he had seen. Then he continued, careful not to change a single detail. These were not stories shaped by imagination. They were truths shown to him with purpose. "Let those who do not know learn," he wrote. "Let those who remain faithful find joy in understanding." His words were meant to guide, to remind, and to steady hearts in times of confusion. This charge gave Enoch direction. His life was no longer only about walking with God in private. It was about preserving what had been revealed. The secrets of time and space, the order of the heavens, the rhythm of days, all were now entrusted to him. And so Enoch wrote, line upon line, passing on the pattern of the skies so that the earth below would remember that it too moves under the care of the Most High. Sleep came over Enoch once again, and with it another dream. This vision was different from the others. It did not show him gates of heaven or chambers of light. Instead, it came in symbols, like a story told through living images. He saw a white bull standing alone in a wide field. It was strong and pure, untouched by stain. This bull represented the first man, formed in innocence. From it came other bulls, spreading across the land. As time passed, their number increased and the earth filled with them. Among them, Enoch saw 4 smaller bulls set apart. They stood close together, distinct from the rest. He recognized that they symbolized the sons of Noah. Around them, the world seemed restless and unsettled. The ground shifted, the sky darkened, the air carried a sense of coming change. Then the waters rose. In the dream, it was not only rain, but a great sea of chaos covering everything. The bull creatures that filled the land were swept away as the waters spread. The world became a vast flood once more. The creatures struggled against the rising tide, but the waves were too strong. Enoch watched as the waters covered the earth completely. What he had once seen in vision now appeared again in symbol. The flood was not random. It was the answer to a world that had turned from its order for too long. When the waters finally settled, the land appeared empty and dry. The ground looked stripped and bare, waiting for life to begin again. Silence covered the scene. But in the midst of it all, one small white bull remained safe. It had not been overtaken. It stood quietly, preserved through the chaos. Enoch saw that this represented the righteous line, the family of Noah. Though the world had changed, they were kept secure. Even as other beasts fought and fell in the dream, protection remained over the pure line. It was a sign that mercy and purpose still guided events. The flood was not the end of the story, but a turning point. The dream spoke clearly without words. Though the waters covered the earth, those chosen for renewal were guarded. Even when the world is shaken, preservation remains for those set apart. The dream continued, but the scene shifted once more. This time, all of history appeared before Enoch as a great field filled with animals. Men were no longer shown as men. They appeared as beasts of many kinds, each symbol carrying meaning. High above them, Enoch saw stars shining in the sky. Each star had a name. He recognized that these stars stood for the Watchers, the angels who once descended. They looked down upon the field, watching the events below, their light steady yet distant. On the earth, Enoch saw a group of white sheep. They moved together as a flock. These sheep represented a chosen people, small compared to the beasts around them, yet marked with purity. Among them, one sheep stood out at the beginning, and from it many others came. This was the house of Abraham, growing slowly but surely. But the field was not peaceful. Lions prowled around the sheep. Wild beasts circled them with sharp eyes. These creatures symbolized powerful nations, strong kingdoms that rose up against the flock. At times the sheep were scattered, at times they were pressed on every side, yet they were not destroyed. Enoch noticed shepherds placed over the sheep. Some shepherds cared for them and led them to safe ground. Others were careless, allowing harm to come near. These shepherds represented leaders and kings who guided, or failed to guide, the people. Above it all, the stars seemed to watch, and some plotted in secret. Then Enoch saw a great shepherd raised up by God. This shepherd was firm and faithful. He led the flock with strength and direction. Through him, the sheep found their way again. Enoch knew this symbol pointed to Moses, the one appointed to guide the people out of danger and into promise. The vision moved forward like a story told across generations. New beasts appeared, some like lions, others like leopards or powerful birds. They represented kingdoms that would rise one after another. Some conquered, some ruled harshly. Yet each in turn passed away. Though the sheep often seemed small and surrounded, an unseen hand guarded them. When danger grew too great, help came. When they were scattered, they were gathered again. The shepherd above all shepherds never abandoned them. In his dream, Enoch understood that this was more than a tale of animals. It was the story of the children of Adam, played out through symbols. The struggles of the sheep were the struggles of real people. The beasts were nations. The stars were heavenly watchers, observing the unfolding plan. History itself moved across the field like a long procession. Kingdoms rose and fell, leaders came and went, but the flock endured. The vision showed that even when surrounded by stronger forces, the chosen line would not disappear. Their story was guided by a purpose greater than any single empire. The dream moved forward, and the field of animals shifted again. Among the flock of sheep, one rose with unusual strength. This sheep did not look greater in size, but it carried authority. It listened closely, as if hearing a distant cry carried by the wind. From beyond the field, from near a great river, the sound of suffering reached its ears. This sheep stepped forward. Enoch saw that it was chosen to lead. Though surrounded by powerful beasts, it did not retreat. The lions that once circled the flock now roared with anger, but something had changed. The chosen sheep lifted its voice, and the flock gathered behind it. In the vision, the sheep were no longer scattered. They moved together, following their leader away from the grip of the lions. The river that once blocked their path parted before them. Waters stood aside, opening a clear way through. The flock crossed safely while the beasts could not follow. Enoch saw fear fall away from the sheep. The terror that once kept them bowed low began to fade. The lions that had ruled over them lost their hold. The power behind the chosen sheep was not its own. It came from above, from the unseen shepherd who guides all things. The message was simple but strong. The leader among them had been appointed for this moment. He spoke as if saying, "Let my people go." And the field itself seemed to respond. The flock moved forward into a new place, away from bondage and toward promise. Though dangers would still arise, they were no longer without direction. They had been shown that the one who watches from heaven acts in time. Enoch felt joy rise within him even as he dreamed. The vision showed that the sheep are never abandoned. Even when surrounded by wolves and lions, a deliverer is raised. The hand of the shepherd remains over his flock, leading them through waters and across wilderness into freedom. The dream did not slow. The field of animals became a place of constant struggle. Enoch saw fierce beasts rise one after another, each more powerful than the last. First came a leopard with wings spread wide across its back. It moved quickly, striking without warning. Its speed and sharp teeth allowed it to seize control of the land. This beast ruled for a time, towering over the smaller animals. But it did not remain alone for long. From another corner of the field came a creature with great tusks and heavy strength. It pushed forward with force, driving the winged leopard aside. The land trembled under its weight. This new beast claimed the ground as its own. Then a massive bear appeared, rising with power and hunger. It swept through the field, scattering what remained. Its paws were strong, and its roar echoed far. Yet even the bear's season did not last. After it came a dreadful leopard, larger and more fearsome than the first. It moved with discipline and control, conquering territory with careful steps. Its rule stretched wide, covering much of the field. It seemed as if no creature could stand against it. Enoch recognized these beasts not by name, but by their color, their shape, and their weapons. Each represented a kingdom rising to power. Each defeated the one before it. Each believed its rule would never end. Yet one by one, they weakened. The winged leopard lost its speed. The tusked beast grew tired. The bear's strength faded. Even the dreadful leopard, with all its reach, began to show signs of age. None could hold the field forever. Through every shift, through every clash of teeth and claw, one small lamb remained. It did not dominate. It did not conquer. But it stayed faithful. Though surrounded by chaos, it was not consumed. While the beasts grew heavy with power and pride, the lamb survived quietly. Enoch saw the lambs gather in the wilderness, nourished not by the beasts, but by help from above. They found provision where it seemed there should be none. As the beasts grew old and blind, the lambs endured. The dream made it clear, no rule built on force lasts without end. Kingdoms rise in strength and fall in weakness. Power passes from one hand to another, but faithfulness remains. Enoch felt comfort in what he saw. The field may shake with conflict, but no tyranny stands forever. The small and faithful outlast the mighty when their trust rests in the unseen shepherd. The dream moved toward its final scene, and the field grew tense and heavy. Among the flock, new shepherds appeared. At first they seemed appointed to guide the sheep, but their actions told a different story. Instead of protecting the flock, they struck them. Instead of leading them to safe ground, they scattered them. The sheep grew thin and weary under their care. These shepherds acted for themselves. They allowed harm to come near. Some even drove the sheep out from their own pasture. The field became a place of confusion. The flock did not know whom to trust. Then Enoch saw something strange. From the eyes of the corrupt shepherds came flashes like fire. It was not light that guided. It was a sign that their hidden motives were being revealed. The sheep began to see clearly. What had once been disguised was now exposed. Suddenly, from the edge of the field, a great dragon appeared. Its presence was dark and commanding. It moved with force, towering over the animals. The dragon seized 2 of the 12 lambs and cast them aside. Fear spread through the flock. The dragon then called upon the goats, animals that had mixed among the sheep but did not share their nature. These goats turned against the flock, pushing and striking with their horns. The field filled with turmoil. Enoch felt the weight of the scene. The flock seemed surrounded. The dragon stood proud. The corrupt shepherds and goats appeared to have the upper hand. But then the sky above the field opened. Light poured down from heaven. The Son of Man appeared, surrounded by holy ones. His presence changed everything. The dragon's confidence faltered. The corrupt shepherds could not stand before the brightness. The goats scattered in confusion. One by one, those who had harmed the flock were removed from the field. They were cast down into a great abyss prepared for such a time. The dragon's power was broken. The goats no longer trampled the sheep. The false shepherds were no longer allowed to rule. The field grew quiet. The scattered sheep were gathered together. The air felt clean again. What had been trampled was restored. The true flock stood safely under the care of the rightful shepherd. The dream ended not in chaos, but in renewal. The field was purified. The harm done by false leaders was brought to an end, and the sheep that had endured were finally at peace beneath open heavens. The dream did not end in battle. It ended in light. After the field had been cleared and the false shepherds removed, Enoch lifted his eyes and saw something descending from above. It was not a cloud, not a storm, not fire. It was a city. Slowly, with steady brightness, a great city came down from heaven. It did not look like the cities of men, built with fear and defended with walls of war. This city shone with peace. Its walls gleamed like polished gold. Its foundations were set with precious stones, each one clear and radiant. Enoch saw that the city had 12 gates. Each gate stood open, welcoming those who approached. They were strong, yet not closed in defense. Above them was order and beauty, not threat. The gates seemed to say that no enemy remained. At the center of the city stood a great temple, shining brighter than all the rest. It was built for the rescued sheep, the faithful who had endured through every age. Its pillars were steady, its courts were wide. No shadow lingered there. In the very middle of the city, Enoch saw a living spring. Clear water flowed from it, bright as crystal. It did not run dry. It moved gently through the city, bringing life wherever it touched. The sound of it was calm and refreshing. Then the sheep began to enter. They were no longer scattered or afraid. They walked with confidence, led by the shepherd. The Son of Man stood among them, guiding them through the gates. There was no dragon in sight. No beasts prowled at the edges. No corrupt shepherds raised their voices. Inside the city, peace ruled. It was not fragile peace, easily broken. It was steady and lasting. The people lifted their voices in joy. Some sang, some bowed in gratitude, some simply stood in quiet wonder. They were home. Enoch saw that God himself was present among them, not distant, not hidden. His glory filled the city like light fills the morning sky. There was no need for fear. There was no need for walls to keep danger out. The darkness that once covered the field was gone. The lambs who had once wandered through wilderness now rested in safety. The tears they had shed were replaced with joy. The struggles of past generations seemed small compared to the peace before them. The city did not flicker like a dream. It stood firm. It was prepared, planned, and completed by God. Every stone was set with purpose. Every gate faced a direction with meaning. Nothing was unfinished. Enoch felt his heart swell as he watched the people move freely through its streets. Children laughed. Voices rose in praise. The living water flowed without end. The shepherd walked among his flock, and they followed him without fear. This was the final image given to him. After wars and floods, after beasts and dragons, after kings and shepherds had risen and fallen, this was the end of the vision, a home prepared by God himself. When Enoch awoke, the memory of the city remained clear in his heart. The trials of history were not the final word. Beyond every struggle, a dwelling place awaited the faithful. The story closed not in chaos, but in promise. After the visions of beasts and cities, after the rising and falling of kingdoms, Enoch began to set his thoughts in order. He did not simply repeat what he had seen. Instead, he arranged it like a pattern, like time itself laid out in clear stages. He spoke of weeks, not weeks of 7 simple days, but weeks that stood for ages. Each week represented a span of history, a chapter in the story of mankind. Together, they formed a complete design, 10 great periods, measured and known from the beginning. Enoch wrote that in the first week, righteousness would shine in its early light. It was the time of beginnings, when the promise of life was first given. The roots of faith were planted. Though the world was still young, the direction had already been set. In the second week, he saw growth and struggle. Good and evil moved side by side. People multiplied, and the world began to show both beauty and disorder. Choices were made that shaped the future. In the third week, a man was chosen as a plant of righteousness. From him would grow a line set apart. His house would carry the promise forward through generations. Though small at first, it would endure. The fourth week brought visions of law and guidance. A path was shown to help people walk rightly. Order was given to direct the nation chosen to carry the light. The 5th week was marked by a house of glory, a temple built in honor of the Most High. It stood as a sign that God dwells among His people. But even this would not remain untouched by change. In the 6th week, trouble increased. Kingdoms rose with pride. The temple would face destruction. The faithful would be tested. It was a time when confusion seemed to grow. The 7th week revealed a turning. A chosen group would arise, set apart for righteousness. They would stand firm when others drifted. Knowledge and truth would be written down clearly for those who desired to learn. The 8th week was a time of justice. A sword would be given, not of chaos, but of truth, to set things right. A new house would be built, greater than the first. It would not be shaken as easily. In the 9th week, the righteous judgment would be revealed openly. The works of those who turned from what is right would be brought into view. The world would begin to see clearly. Then came the 10th week. This was the final stage. Enoch wrote that in this week the heavens would open. A great renewal would take place. The powers that caused disorder would be removed. Righteousness would no longer struggle to survive. It would reign. Beyond these 10 weeks, Enoch saw something even greater. He saw a new age without end. A time where goodness remains steady and peace does not fade. The pattern of weeks led not to darkness, but to lasting light. He called this vision the secret of weeks. It was not a new prophecy, but a framework for all he had seen. The floods, the kingdoms, the shepherds, the city, all fit within these appointed times. History was not scattered or uncontrolled. It moved forward step by step like days counted on a scroll. By dividing the ages into weeks, Enoch showed that time itself serves a purpose. Each period has its role. Each generation stands within a greater design. And at the end of the final week, the promise of a renewed world remains certain. After setting out the pattern of the weeks, Enoch turned his voice toward those who had chosen a different path. His words grew direct. They were not spoken in anger, but in warning. He had seen too much to remain silent. "Woe to you who walk blindly," he wrote. "Woe to you who guide others, yet do not see the way yourselves." His voice echoed the truths shown to him in vision. He had witnessed the order of heaven, the rise and fall of kingdoms, the final gathering of the righteous. Now he spoke to those who ignored these things. He warned of a coming day when the light would withdraw from those who loved wrongdoing. It would be a day heavy and serious when hidden deeds would be brought into view. Those who built their lives on selfish desire would find no shelter in that hour. Enoch declared that power gained without righteousness does not stand. If kings chase glory only for themselves, their thrones will tremble. If leaders seek control rather than justice, their strength will fade. What looks secure today may not remain tomorrow. He spoke also to scribes and teachers. "Woe to you who twist truth," he wrote. "Woe to you who change what is straight into what is crooked." Scrolls filled with false words would not endure. Deception may flourish for a time, but it cannot outlast the truth established by God. Enoch listed 8 great warnings, 8 woes spoken clearly and one after another. Each addressed a different path of rebellion. Those who gather wealth without mercy, those who use their position to harm others, those who rejoice in the misfortune of the faithful, those who speak proudly while their hearts are far from righteousness. With every warning, there was a pause. Silence followed each declaration, as if the weight of the words needed space to settle. In that silence, Enoch saw that those who lived in error would have no defense. When truth stands openly, excuses fall away. This part of his writing struck like thunder across a quiet sky. It was meant to wake those who had grown comfortable in wrongdoing. He did not write to condemn without hope. He wrote to turn hearts while there was still time. "Change your ways now," he urged. Do not wait until the appointed day. He had seen valleys set apart for reckoning. He had witnessed what happens when pride refuses to bend. His warning came from what he had already been shown. The message was firm but clear. The path of selfishness leads to loss, but the path of righteousness leads to life. The choice remains open while breath remains in the body. The time to listen is before the final hour arrives. After speaking strong warnings, Enoch softened his tone. He turned his words toward those who had remained faithful, the children of light who listened, even when the world around them grew loud and restless. "Do not be afraid," he wrote. "Your place is known. Your calling is secure." He did not speak empty comfort. He had seen the throne of glory. He had seen the gathering of the righteous clothed in white. His encouragement came from what had already been revealed to him. He told them that righteousness is like a flame that does not go out. Winds may blow against it. Darkness may surround it, yet it continues to shine. It may seem small at times, but it carries a light that no shadow can swallow. Enoch described a future where the faithful would inherit the earth. Not through force, not through power seized by hand, but through promise fulfilled. The land would no longer be ruled by pride. Peace would settle like morning dew. Mercy would walk beside them like a close companion. He reminded them that stumbling does not mean defeat. "Even if you fall," he wrote, "you will rise again." The path of righteousness is not without struggle, but it is not abandoned. The Most High sees each step. He does not turn away from those who trust him. Enoch painted a picture of joy that reaches beyond present troubles. He spoke of days when sorrow would give way to gladness, when questions would be answered, when the burdens carried quietly would be lifted. He pointed to signs in the natural world as reminders of hope. After heavy storms, the sun still returns. Clouds do not remain forever. In the same way, hardship does not have the final word. The cry for justice, though it may seem delayed, is heard. It rises to heaven and is remembered. He repeated the promise of wisdom flowing like a fountain. Those who seek understanding will not thirst forever. Light is available for those who ask. The faithful will not wander without guidance. He also spoke of long life, not only measured in years, but in lasting peace. A life rooted in righteousness stretches beyond the limits of a single generation. It leaves a mark that continues. Enoch's words were meant to steady hearts. The world may appear unstable, kingdoms may rise and fall, voices may mock and oppose, but the foundation of the righteous stands firm. "You are beloved," he wrote. "You are not forgotten." The Most High remains near. His presence is not distant from those who walk in truth. He surrounds them in ways they cannot always see. In this final encouragement, Enoch gathered together all he had witnessed, the tree of life, the shining city, the throne of glory, and offered it as assurance. The journey may be long, but it leads to peace. The light may seem small, but it will not be put out, and those who remain faithful will find that every promise spoken over them stands secure. At the end of his writings, Enoch spoke with a tone that was steady and final. He had described the heavens, the watchers, the flood, the kingdoms, the shepherds, and the holy city. Now he spoke of the last moment toward which all of history moves. He said there would come a day when every path reaches its outcome. For those who chose darkness again and again, who turned from wisdom when it was offered, there would be separation from the light. They would be led into outer darkness, far from the brightness of the kingdom they once heard about. It would be a place empty of joy, empty of peace. There would be deep sorrow there, regret over missed chances, silence where proud words once echoed. Their names, once spoken with confidence, would no longer stand among the living. What they trusted in would not remain. Enoch described this not with excitement, but with seriousness. The final judgment would not be rushed or careless. It would be clear and measured. Nothing would be overlooked. No hidden act would remain concealed. The truth of every life would be revealed in full light. But then he turned again to the faithful. For the righteous, there would be a kingdom of light prepared long before their birth. It would not be a fragile peace that can be broken. It would be lasting and steady. They would dwell in brightness that does not fade, walking without fear, without the weight they once carried. He wrote that in the name of the Lord of Spirits, they would live and remain. The struggles that held them back would end. The chains of sorrow would fall away. They would not wander from place to place searching for safety. They would be home. Enoch described their joy as complete. Their voices would rise in gratitude. Their faces would reflect the light around them. They would remember the trials they passed through, but those trials would no longer define them. He also spoke of recognition. Those who had mocked righteousness would see it honored. Those who had quietly endured would be lifted up. The final judgment would settle every question that once seemed unanswered. Enoch made it clear that this was not a story shaped by imagination. He sealed his words with certainty. What he had written came from visions granted by the Most High. The order he saw in the heavens guarantees the outcome on earth. Just as the sun keeps its course and the moon holds its cycle, so the final judgment stands fixed. He ended with assurance. The justice of God is not delayed without purpose. It is steady. It is sure. When the appointed day arrives, all will understand. And so Enoch closed his book with a promise that reaches beyond every age, that light remains for the faithful, and that truth will have the final word over all creation. At the close of his life, Enoch gathered his final thoughts and spoke not with thunder, but with warmth. He had seen the heights of heaven and the depths prepared for those who refused the light. He had walked through visions of fire and crystal, of beasts and cities, of judgment and renewal. Now his voice turned gentle, like a father speaking to his children. "You who love God," he said, "be joyful." He called them brothers and sisters of life, not servants of fear, not wanderers without direction, but heirs of promise. He reminded them that righteousness is not wasted. Every quiet act of faithfulness is seen. Every prayer spoken in secret is heard. He blessed those who remained steady when others drifted. He blessed those who chose truth when lies were easier. He blessed those who endured hardship without giving up hope. Over them he spoke peace, not the kind that fades with circumstances, but peace rooted deep within the soul. Enoch promised again what he had promised before. The faithful will see light. They will stand secure. They will dwell in a kingdom prepared for them. Mercy will meet them. Joy will surround them. Their story will not end in sorrow. He reminded them of all he had written, the order of the heavens, the weeks of history, the rising and falling of kingdoms, the gathering of the sheep, the shining city. None of it was without purpose. It was all part of a greater design, moving steadily toward fulfillment. Then came the quiet moment. Enoch did not fall as others had fallen. He did not fade slowly with age. One day, he was no longer found among men. He was taken, lifted from the earth to dwell among the holy ones. Since the days of Adam, no one had walked so closely with God and been carried into his presence in this way. There was no grand farewell, no long procession, only the memory of a righteous man who had walked faithfully until the end. The final scroll he left behind carried his parting message, a song of victory and trust. It was not filled with fear, it was filled with assurance. It reminded every reader that history is guided, that light overcomes darkness, that faith is never in vain. Though his voice no longer echoed across the hills, his words remained. They were read in quiet rooms and spoken in troubled times. The faithful held on to them like a lamp in the night. In his visions they found direction. In his warnings they found clarity. In his promises they found hope. and as generations passed, they continued to watch for the day when every prophecy would stand fulfilled. Enoch was gone from their sight, but his testimony endured. And so his story closes, not with silence, but with expectation, not with despair, but with promise. For the God who revealed these things remains faithful, and the light Enoch saw still shines for those who choose to walk in it.